Welcome to the family with.
Mike Gelfand.
And Andy Brant Bernard.
So, what's the latest? Anything good?
Well, it's going to thaw out probably in another 4 months or so.
Yes.
4 or 5 months down the line.
A little cold today.
What are you, 6 below this morning is the lowest, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and if you're into that, that whole feels like thing, it was about 25 below.
25 below.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. But in my house, it only felt like it was about 15 below.
So you're much better. You got the
toasty.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm stocking up now for what I feel will be one of the worst winters ever. I have no scientific basis for that, but I just
feel it.
Well, it's still December. It's not Christmas yet. It's not supposed to be like 8 below zero.
That is true. That's usually like a January, February kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's a bad start. What I've done is I put in an order for a 35-pound side of beef. And, of course, I have toilet paper. I have like 2 cabinets full.
You do, two full, yeah.
And I did have Amazon deliver me 16 bars of Dove soap, Dove Beauty soap.
Yeah, we should have bought that when we had a chance.
Dove soap?
Amazon, yeah. What did he buy it for again? And what did this guy buy it for again? Because they just released the value of it yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's now worth $260 billion.
Well, I don't think he bought it for anything. I think he made it.
Oh, I thought it would somebody else.
No,
Bezos?
No, he started it, I believe.
Oh, did he really?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Elon Musk for a minute because he is worth about $270 billion.
Not anymore. He's worth about $450 billion now.
Yeah, sure, of course. And now he's in a position where he can give himself all the tax breaks if there's some he doesn't have.
I know.
I mean, we don't really. Do we need billionaires running the country? Is that a good thing?
Well, I think that's just how it's going to be for the rest of time.
Yep.
Well, it could be.
I think that's how it's always been. The aristocracy has never been poor.
Oh no, I wouldn't expect them to be poor, but the question is, how much control do the richest people in the world have? Oligarchs tend not to make a country great again.
That is true.
They did pretty well for the UK for about 500 years.
Well, it depends, I guess, who you were.
Yes, exactly.
So like everywhere else now.
Pretty much.
There's no question about it. I just, it's unfortunate, but people care about money and then very little else. Everything's about money now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. And, we'll slog on through. I still can't believe that people are cheering and laughing and having a great time over someone massacring someone else from behind. Didn't even walk up to the guy face to face, shot him in the back.
Yeah.
Why people look? I don't have a side in this fight because why you would praise a man who murdered somebody, I will never understand.
Yeah, what I do understand is that it brought out all the anger people have about insurance companies, health insurance companies, because we think we talked about this a little last week, but it reminds us that doctors have nothing to do with our healthcare system. It's insurance companies who control it.
Yes,
and
that's true.
Insurance companies do one thing really well, and that is deny claims.
I know there's that big denial situation. I mean, they're making so. Right now, I would say that our school system, obviously there are 3 areas. The politics of the country are just a disaster. And then you got to go with the banking system. And not everybody, of course. Bilski's a great guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? But no, it's everything now is about money. Everything is about being as filthy as you can to make money. I don't really understand that.
Yeah, and the people. I think the majority of voters in the election, the presidential election, voted probably because they thought that one guy or the other person was going to be really good for their financial situation.
That's exactly right. It's all about your finances as well.
And I think that they're going to find out that they're still going to be poor. If they're poor, they're still going to be poor. And it would have been that way the other way, maybe more so when you've got the richest man in the world, basically. Well, he's probably the most powerful guy in our country now.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. But then on the other side, you got the other Hunyuk pardoning over 2,000 people's crimes.
Yep.
I mean, what are we doing?
Well, that's the first thing that Donald Trump says he's going to do. He's going to pardon all the people who were in prison for what they did on January 6th.
Well, they should have never gone to prison anyway, I thought.
He'll never do it.
Not everyone went to prison, no.
No.
But a lot of people did.
But why did they go to prison? The one woman was shot by a cop, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and 100 cops were battered and beaten by the crowd.
But now I had heard they made most of that up. Who knows? I mean, that's the whole problem.
So where did you hear that?
Oh, everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. They will exaggerate and lie about anything.
Well, I don't know. Did you see the videos of that?
I never saw anybody being beaten up, but I did. You know,
didn't
Mike,
see any cops getting beat up.
Nope.
Well,
I don't watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was there.
100 cops.
Mm-hmm. Well, 4 committed suicide.
Did they?
Yeah.
Because of that whole thing.
Yeah, because of post-traumatic stress.
I would like to see the proof of that because I have never heard that from anywhere. Why haven't they ever talked about that?
Well, I guess it depends who you're listening to.
Well, I watched CNN and Fox. They couldn't be any further apart.
Right. Well, you wouldn't hear about it on Fox, but you would hear about it on CNN.
Why wouldn't you hear about it on Fox? It's the news.
Because according to Fox, it was a demonstration of peace and love.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, both of these parties, I got nobody lost. Believe me. I don't know what I'm going to do in the future when I vote and all the rest of it. But
yeah,
it is what it is. It's all about money now. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I think we're a long ways away from what the founding fathers wanted this to be. Yep. But they also knew that this was a strong possibility.
Yeah, I suppose that is.
It only took about 200 years for it to happen.
You know what I'd like to do is like a politician. I'd like to wake up tomorrow morning and be worth $250 million, and I don't have to prove where I got it. That's what I'd like.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, you only have to do it one time.
You only have to do it once in your life. All right. I mean, these are all just these political stuff right now makes me want to puke. All of it. And it's not one side or the other. They're all nuts.
That's why, I enjoy sports. And I look at these clean-cut kids in college who are just, they're in college, these great athletes. They're in college to get a great education, and they don't have to worry about money. Well, I guess they do, yeah.
You mean they got that big income now?
I forgot they're all paid now.
Millions of dollars too, right?
Oh, it can be, yes, millions of dollars. I think like on the Gophers basketball team, which may not win a game this year. I mean, a Big Ten game. I think the Dawson Garcia, who's supposed to be their star player, I think he's making close to $1 million. Just imagine how much he'd make if they ever win a game.
No, absolutely. Think about that. How did that ever get put into place that our college athletes are now paid to play college sports?
Well, they just wanted to make it a little more honest, instead of, so now, like, it used to be you recruited guys by having parties and with strippers.
Yeah.
And something worse sometimes. But now you don't have to do that. Now you just give them a check.
Weren't they already getting full ride scholarships, though?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some of these scholarships are worth $150,000.
Yeah,
that's a decent amount of money to make when you're 18 years old.
It's true, but that assumes that the great athletes in college were there for an education.
Well, they're there for a degree, not an education.
Well, when you're there for 1 year, you're probably not there for a degree.
Probably not.
And that's the best athlete. It would be one and done. And now you got guys, college athletes, who are on their 5th or 6th team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So they just go from one team to the next, depending on who can pay them the most money.
So they're like everybody else. It's all about the money, yet again.
Yeah.
I picked when I decided I want to become a disc jockey, it wasn't one of the worst paying jobs in America.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember back in those days, if you made $100 a week, you were lucky.
It's probably worse now.
Oh, I think it probably is. I think you probably are right about that.
Because in those days, you had a lot of family-owned radio stations.
Yep.
And now, except for the Hubbards, you don't. There's nothing like that here or in any other market. It's hedge funds now instead of families.
It is, and that's going to drive everybody to podcasting, of course, because
yeah.
Well, it's already doing that. There's no exception to that rule. It's I don't know, man. I hope people understand once you get all that money. I hope it makes you happy because money's great. It's great not to have any worries about paying your bills, but it ain't going to make you happy other than paying your bills, right?
It won't make you happy. Money won't. But poverty is guaranteed to make you unhappy.
That's 100% true. There's no question about that. Well, it drove me as a little boy. I promised myself at 7 years old that I would not be poor when I grew up. That didn't mean I was going to do anything illegal because I never did. I went out and earned it, whether it was in voiceover or Capitol Records or radio or podcasting or whatever it is. You go out, work your ass off. If it works, you're grateful and you move on.
Yep, there you go. That's when I figured out at the age of 18 that I actually had a talent for writing and just kind of naturally for journalism. I didn't skip a beat. From that day on, when I was in college, I was working 70 hours a week at the Daily because that was my one shot. I was a loser, in high school. So that was the one thing I knew that I could use to be able to maybe even afford to have a family.
What movie is that when the guy walks up, puts his hand on his buddy's shoulder and goes, "Let me tell you about another loser"? What movie is that?
It sounds like Lonesome Jim, but I don't know.
One of the Lonesome Jim was a great movie.
Yeah, fantastic.
One of the most underrated movies of all time. Catherine and I watched The Ref last night again.
Yeah?
Oh, my God, that movie's funny.
Oh, I got to check that out. I never saw it.
Oh, it's really, really good. And everybody in it just plays their role to the hilt. A lot of talent, no question about it.
From what I can tell, that quote is from Animal House.
Oh, that is. You're right. You think he's a loser? Let me tell you the story of another loser. He puts his hand on his shoulder.
That was a great movie, too.
Oh, Animal House was fantastic.
Especially about the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, probably. Well, just remember the guy who's wearing a turban. All of a sudden, his name is Jug Dish. And I'd like to introduce you to Jug Dish. Oh, is that his name? Jug Dish? Okay. Whatever works. So how about plans for the holiday season, Miguel? When does the big, nice Jewish holiday kick off?
Well, you mean Hanukkah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hanukkah's, it's like, Hanukkah, you know this, obviously. You grew up around a lot of Jews, but there are still a lot of people who think Hanukkah is the Jewish Christmas.
They do, yes. They do think that.
I mean, Hanukkah, you spin the dreidel, you light the candles and hope they don't burn the house down.
Mm-hmm.
And you get some chocolate little coins, and then you go on to the next thing. Not a big deal. I was watching Jimmy Kimmel last night. I always watch his monologue because the writers are really good. So you might want to check this out. They did a little sketch in which you had a pathetic Jewish guy who worked at a matzo ball shop, and it was exactly like the idea, the concept of a Jewish Christmas, which obviously it isn't,
mm-hmm.
But it really was hilarious. It was based a lot on the fact that it was what it was like a Hallmark satire. So of course you had the blonde shiksa,
sure,
hooking up with the pathetic Jewish guy, and so it was it was about Hanukkah. It was about Jews who just are basically failing, shiksas who have no idea what the Jews are doing, Hallmark. It was a lot like a Hallmark thing, because I don't think there's ever been a Jew in a Hallmark movie, has there?
I don't think so.
And they didn't even have a brunette until a few years ago. Now, you had to be
all
blonde.
blondes. Had to be blonde or you aren't getting in. That's the deal.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
I suppose that's probably true.
Oh, that reminds me. I'm watching. I may have missed something, but I was watching. I was basically watching a lot of the news, last night. I was just, zipping around. I watched 4, I watched 5, 9, 11, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught at least some of the Channel 4 weather. Schaefer was doing it, and he said, and maybe it was just like a joke that you had to have been watching to really understand. I mean, I had to watch earlier. Maybe it was a reference, but it was certainly deadpan. And he said, and finally Friday night it'll be getting warmer, and you can, you and your honey can get out of the house, maybe have dinner at the Lincoln Dell.
Who said that?
That is Chris Schaefer, the weather guy.
Have dinner at the Lincoln Dell, and this is in 2024.
Yeah, that's what has it been, like 35 years now?
I think that's about right.
It's another case of Gentiles not knowing anything about the Jewish culture.
Well, what are you going to do, right?
But I don't know. Maybe it was like an inside joke. I don't know.
Go to the Lincoln Dell. Maybe he meant to say, I wish I could go to the Lincoln Dell.
Well, don't we all?
Oh, I love the Lincoln Dell. Danny Berenberg. You hear from Danny anymore? You get your card?
I get my card. I get the holiday card, yes.
Lincoln Dell closed in 2000.
Okay.
24 years ago.
24 years.
24 years.
Unbelievable.
Seems longer to me.
So it does. I agree with you. Because now Moritz is closed as well. So you got the Celebrity, and you got one in St. Paul and one in Minneapolis. Are there any other good delis around? There got to be some other good delis, aren't there?
Maybe, but when I think of a good deli, I think of Cecil's.
Cecil's is fantastic, no question about it. So I got to ask you a question about something, and this is just my observation. I'm not telling anybody how to think or what to think or the rest of it. But this was her name, Caitlin Clark, the really good young basketball player.
Yeah.
She made this statement, and I don't understand. She said, talked about, I want to rise up women's basketball, and I want to do this, and I've had a great career so far, but let's be honest, I'm white, so there's some privilege. Mm-hmm. What privilege is she talking about?
Yeah, the only white person in the entire room, and apparently that makes her privileged.
I think it's the privilege of making millions of dollars.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, but this whole idea that you have to point out you're white and therefore you have privilege, I am so sick of hearing that, because people think that all white people live in privilege, and it's complete bullshit. There are some destitute white people in this country, and every time you open your mouth like that, you're basically screwing them over even more. There are people of every race, every religion, everything that are dirt poor and very wealthy. Just how it is, right?
Yeah,
so this idea you need to keep pointing out your skin color, it's gotten a little old.
Yeah,
be honest with you.
How about point out your professional athlete privilege?
Yeah, how about that?
They've got some privilege.
Oh yeah, and she's in college. She was making a couple million a year.
Yeah, that's insane.
So she did have that going for her.
Was it because she was white?
Partly.
I don't think so. I think that's because she was so good.
You got the 1.5 times whiteness multiplier.
So you think it help her being white?
You mean in terms of finances?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that the money she was getting from like Nike and all these other sponsors. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that helped her. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but your skin color's got nothing to do with it. They give money to all people. I mean,
yes,
all good
they do,
people.
But she got more than anyone.
But she's better than anybody.
Well, I think she probably was, but there's a lot of talent out there.
Oh yeah, there is, no question about that.
And it's you can't. One thing you can't put aside, you can't pretend, is that there was a lot of hostility because she was white. Most of the players were black, and she was making more money than anyone. That's just a fact. I'm not saying that that's the way it should be or shouldn't be. I'm just saying that is a fact.
So it's like a reverse Tiger Woods situation.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, I just, but again, and part of that has to do growing up where I grew up. I grew up around everybody, so it's never bothered me. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that suburban white people don't understand. That just because I'm white, I didn't grow up like you did. I don't mind how I grew up. I love my family and my life, and I got a great life now. But there are tons and tons and tons of white people out there that are destitute, and I don't ever hear their problem come up ever. Do you?
It doesn't make for a great story.
That's
No, it does
the
not.
exact point. It's
No
not a
one
great story.
cares.
Yeah, then no one cares. That's why none of it has any validity to me. Try helping out everybody, not just some people. I mean, the problem 150 years ago is you were helping out only white people. That was the problem.
Right.
Now we're helping out, it's like, come on, Jesus, can you just, how about everybody? Let's get everybody in the group and we're all the same. How about that?
Not going to happen.
You're absolutely right. It is not going to happen, but whatever. You guys live the life you live and go forward. All right. So changing the subject, what else is happening?
Well, the Vikings are now expected to be a Super Bowl candidate. And every time I look up, they're almost losing, but they're winning. So,
Yeah, I mean,
I think right now there's probably more interest in the Vikings around here, that is, than there is about anything else. What? Flu, COVID, no, it's
the
the
Vikings.
It's the Vikings.
Yeah, it always has been, though, hasn't it? I mean, the
Yeah,
Twins
pretty
for a
much.
couple of years, but the Vikings have always been the most important thing.
Oh, I grew up just, I couldn't wait for Sunday to see the Vikings play. And then, of course, I saw Joe Cap get beat up to shreds in my backyard. And I thought, I don't think I like this team anymore.
Who was that again that he had the fist fight with?
It was, oh,
It
man.
was a lineman, I think.
So this would have been about 1965.
Right.
So who were the really mean guys in 65?
So who got in a fist fight?
Well, it was Joe Cap.
He was the quarterback.
The quarterback. And what happened was that I had neighbors. They were kitty corner from our house. The neighbors were. And they had a party for the Vikings every year after the last scheduled game of the year. The Vikings, if they had won the game, they would go off to the playoffs. But they lost, and the players blamed Joe Cap, who was, a really great leader, but not a real talented quarterback.
Right.
And so a couple of the guys on the team, just, what happened was they were all drunk, and they went out to our neighbor's backyard and started punching each other. And eventually they wound up in our backyard.
Jesus.
And through the kitchen window, we watched Joe Cap getting pounded.
It was Angelo Mosca.
Who?
Angelo Mosca. I don't know.
He is a professional wrestler, apparently.
Beat him up in the backyard?
In 2011, they got into a fight.
Oh, 2011. No,
that's a different one.
This was much earlier. Yeah.
Well, apparently they have been hating each other since 1963.
Yeah.
So something happened between them in 1963
yeah, it was Joe
as well.
Cap. And if you just go down, like who were the linebackers in I think it was about 1965. I could be off a year.
Yeah.
And nothing was written about it until a year later.
Let's see.
A year later, Newsweek broke the story.
Really?
And we learned about this fight.
Linebackers?
Yeah.
What is a linebacker?
Well, it's just a position. That's all.
Like defensive back, offensive?
Yeah, defensive. Yeah.
Those defensive linebacker. Yeah.
Defensive back, Jeff Jordan. There's a running
those
back
are the defensive backs.
Jim
That's different.
Grisham.
Nope.
Well,
the line there, you got the 4 linemen, then you got the 3 linebackers. They're linebackers. That's what they are.
I do remember that basically Eller and Page were the peacemakers.
Yeah, that's pretty much true.
Yeah, they went out there and said, broke it up. But Cap got beaten very badly. What we learned a year later was that for many weeks afterwards, he would not take off his sunglasses.
Oh, his black eyes.
Yeah.
For all those weeks.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of that coin, by the way, I can't tell you how many great Minnesota Vikings I met, over the
Yeah.
years. Wonderful, very, very nice. Well, Philip Wise. I mean,
Yeah.
you get better than a guy than Philip Wise. Forget it.
Well, I forgot about him.
I forget. Maybe he's
I
the one
talked
that
to him
beat up
just the
Joe
other day.
Cass. You talked to Philip?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
talked to him a couple of weeks ago.
and this wouldn't surprise you. He said that he probably told you the same thing, but he said that basically he hates Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and what he said was everybody in Las Vegas cared only about one thing, and I guess you'd probably know what it was.
Start with an M.
It does.
Well, yeah, of course. It's like what the city's known for: greed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, exactly. It's all about money, and the money circulates there. You know, it has always circulated through churches and the mob. It's great.
I don't think most people understand that organized crime had a big home in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Oh hell yeah,
I had a big home in every city at some point.
yeah. But they were among the, like my cousin who was mobbed up. He headed for Vegas along with the guy who ran the rackets in Minneapolis. Um, about 1953, I would say, went out there. And so that's when all the mobsters were like, yeah, I don't want to be in Cleveland anymore.
Right.
Yeah, Philadelphia is nice, but I'd rather be there. And of course, you had the really mobbed up guys in Florida who had been trying to get rich in Cuba.
Oh, absolutely. That was
Cuba
huge.
didn't work that well because if they built up a nice little practice there, then the government would just take it away from them.
Yep.
So they wound up in Vegas instead. It did start in the early 50s.
Did you ever been to Cuba?
No, I understand. Well, you've been there.
Yep, I've been to Cuba, and it's
Mhm.
amazing. You can certainly tell where the money is because those buildings don't have holes in the side of them. Honest to God.
And at the same time, you got people trying to get by on 1,200 calories a day.
Yeah, there you have it. It's quite the place. But the one thing, if you ever do travel to Cuba, you have to go to the Tropicana. It is quite the experience.
Still there.
It's still there after all these years, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
What a time. No question about it.
A lot of tall women with feathers on their hat.
That's correct. Or we were there at Christmas time, so there's a Christmas tree on everybody's head. That was nice.
Sure. Yeah.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Speaking of performers, I got to believe that you're a huge fan of this guy because I know I am. June 17th, somebody's coming to St. Paul. Do you know who it is? June 17th, St. Paul, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He'll be at the XL Energy Center, so you know he's a big name because he got to sell out all those tickets.
Oh, yeah.
Barry Manilow.
Not Barry Manilow.
Oh, no.
One of my favorite performers of all time and just a great guy, James Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
God, if you ever get a chance to see, have you ever seen him?
I saw him in person when he
Oh,
was
that's right, at the Cube.
strumming the guitar in Studio B. I was about 5 feet away from him.
That's right, he came in. What a nice man.
Yeah, isn't he?
And do you know his music at all?
No, I have no idea who this is.
Oh, God, Her Town, too. Some great songs. Really good songs.
Nope.
And one of the nicest men you'd ever want to meet. Didn't you think so, Gelfano?
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, just totally humility with this guy. He didn't see himself as a huge, wonderful star who needed to be treated like a king. He was just a guy.
He was just a guy. You're absolutely
until
right.
He picked up the guitar.
He's going to be at the XL Energy Center. When did I say it? On June 17th. So I might have to go see him. He's just very, very special guy. No question about it. Correct?
There's no question. I think that one of the reasons he had a lot of humility was because he'd been a heroin addict for quite a while.
Yeah. Yes.
That tends to, if people are able to go on and kick that thing, humility generally sets in.
Yeah, that's pretty much true.
I mean, because that's one of the things they learn in treatment. Not that treatment always works. It rarely does. But sometimes it does, mostly, about the 10th time. And
going through treatment?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like a one and done thing. It's a
It isn't.
lifetime
Yeah,
thing.
you're right. That's true. And is that mostly drugs, mostly alcohol, a combination of the two?
Well, it's everything is a little bit different, but I do think that it also applies to alcoholics. The big thing, I mean, I don't know much about it, but I know a little bit because my brother was a heroin addict,
Yeah,
and
that's right. Yeah.
and the thing that really helps is if they it's not the AA treatment, it's not the AA philosophy, it's not being at Hazelden, it's none of those things. It's really about being with a group of people who you get to know and you get to be totally honest with. If you can get into one of those groups, like um, I've got a friend, you know him well, great guy, and just the nicest guy and the most charitable guy I've ever known. Well, is my buddy Nimmer,
Right.
and Nimmer. I don't think Nimmer ever had a horrible drinking problem, but what he did do was he went to meetings, and then he wound up in this group of guys who just all clicked, and that's the best thing that could ever happen.
Oh, I think there's no question about that whole deal.
That's
You know,
that's why when I was I never believed in support groups or anything, but my wonderful shrink, the guy you know well, Ronnie Grote,
hmm
said, "Yeah, you need to be in a support group." And I said, And he said, "Well," he said, "there's a men's group that meets on Tuesday night." And I said, "Not a chance, not a chance." And he said, "Well, the only other group I know of it's all women, and they have eating disorders." I said, "When do they meet?"
when should I head out?
And they were great, and they were really helpful.
God, you will hear some things because when I how many years have been now, Andy? I gave up drinking like 14, 15 years ago, something like that.
It was around then, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 15 years ago or whatever. I was never one much like you, Mike, for the groups and nothing against them at all.
Yeah.
Some people need that kind of thing. It's not the kind of thing I needed. I
Mm.
put down the booze 15 years ago and haven't had any. Well, that's not true because I went to a dinner in southern Minnesota and I asked for two no alcohol beers. And by the time I had them, I saw they had alcohol in them. Didn't have any
Mm.
effect on me whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I've had two beers in the last 15 years. But going to groups and all that kind of thing, it didn't do much for me.
Well, you probably had a lot of support from Catherine.
Do you mean support and do it again, you're out? You mean that
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
support?
It's a form of
I guess
support.
that's support. Yeah. But
Well, I
a
didn't.
lot of people have nowhere to turn.
This is true.
No, that is true. That's yeah, and those are the people that need the support groups, and I understand that 100%. So I'm not just blasting support groups; I'm blasting myself. It's just not my kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I'm not blaming them; I'm blaming me. It's a whole different situation. But yeah, I mean, you would hear and see things, and I went to one support group. Michael Johnson was in it. You're not supposed to tell anybody, but Michael Johnson's dead now.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could see the sadness on that. Here's a guy who's a huge singer, doing very, very well, and he looked like he wanted to die about half the time I saw him.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know what that is. What is that it gets so locked in your brain you just can't get away from it?
Yeah. I mean, the addiction gene is a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
Seems to be.
It is. Well, I wonder why it is after drinking for 30 years, I could just give it up one night. That was it.
Yeah.
Why? How can I? So I was never an alcoholic, obviously. I just was a pain in the ass when I used to drink. It's a big difference,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Because I got pretty bold when I'd have a couple of. I didn't ever have cocktails. I was a beer or wine drinker. That's the other thing. Maybe that's what it is. The fact that I drank lower alcohol beverages, but not on purpose. I just didn't like whiskey, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But wine can be pretty intoxicating.
Oh, it can. There's no question about that.
I'm sorry. You weren't a wine addict. You were an enophile.
Mm-hmm.
Enophile. That's exactly right. An enophile. Get it going. No question. Well, the charity made out beautifully this year from that because I gave it all away. It's all gone now.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it to them, and it was a lot of money. I will tell you that. Because some of that stuff, as it's sitting there, well, that one bottle that I owned, I bought a bottle of wine many, many years ago, And by the time I finally checked it out, I think that one bottle of wine was worth like 20 grand. I think I bought it for like $400.
One of the first assignments I had at the Minneapolis Tribune was to do a story on. There was a group of guys who had played on the state championship North High School football team.
Oh, sure.
And these guys were the team. It must have been like, about 1910 team or something.
Sure.
So the idea is they buy a bottle of champagne and it goes to the last survivor. So everybody on the team died except for this one guy. He got the bottle of champagne, which was of course not worth anything. It probably wasn't worth much even when it was purchased. But most wine doesn't really look. It's just not that great 70 years later.
No, I can understand that.
And it probably was not in a wine cellar either.
Right. Could be in the ship in the bottom of the ocean. So that's what you're saying.
It could be. So my assignment was to go out there and interview the guy, and of course, interview his kids and other people. And so the guy was, I think they called him something like, the captain or something, the general, something like that, a reference to his World War I status. And so I had to interview him, and so I waited until after the little banquet was over, and then I said, "Hey, Captain," I introduced myself, and I said to him, "What are your fondest memories of being on that team?" And there was a pause, and he said, "My mother used to churn butter in the basement."
Well, doesn't really answer my question, but
well, as it turned out, he was especially eloquent the next day in the paper.
Really?
Yeah, because who was there to say he never said those things?
That's true.
That was probably one of the most unethical things I ever did, but I felt I was in a kind of a bind there.
You had to do what you had to do, Mike.
Yep, this is
that what you're saying?
Yeah.
North Minneapolis Phyllis Wheatley Community Center names new executive director. That was a big spot when I was a kid. A lot of boxing. Hell yes. A lot of boxing at Phyllis Wheatley, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Is it still there at the same place?
Let me see if it is.
South Minneapolis?
This one was in North Minneapolis.
Oh, I guess there were a couple of them, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. January 6th, North Minneapolis native will take over the job of overseeing the center. David Hunter II. The center provides programs and services that empower individuals and families. David's unique ability to meet people where they are, paired with his servant leadership approach, makes him ideal leader to guide PWCC into its next century of service.
Was David Hunter, was that his name?
David Hunter.
The second.
So you know that he either comes from a very rich white family or he's black.
Yes. Exactly.
That's very true, yes.
You don't really see too many seconds and thirds and stuff in the rich white families anymore, though.
No.
That seems to have stopped being a thing around like the Gen X generation.
The funny thing is that, in the NBA, just as an example, there's a lot of athletes who go by, junior, a lot of juniors.
Yes.
And so the announcers will say, and Ben Johnson Johnson Jr. hits the shot. And Junior is not a name, right?
No.
You don't refer to people as Johnson Jr.
No.
Unless Johnson Sr. is also on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But all the announcers...
Very unusual.
All the announcers don't understand that. They just call everybody Junior.
Well, it's like Martin Luther King Jr. You always use the Junior there, so I don't know. It's like a...
Well, in that case, yeah.
Well, it becomes a branding thing at some point, I suppose.
It can, yeah, you're right.
But I know...
Is Junior the same thing as the second?
Yep.
No, I don't think it is.
It's not?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Let's see.
Oh, I didn't think it was, but
apparently Junior is when the child has the same name as the father.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Second is when the child has the same name as a different relative.
Oh, so that'd be like your grandfather.
If I was named Tom, I would be Tom Bernard Jr.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was named Tony, I would be Tony Bernard II.
Ah.
There you go.
Huh.
We got it all figured out.
Very strange.
Actually learned something today.
Yeah,
wow.
I had no idea.
I tried to avoid it, but...
So that means this guy's, what'd you call him? Something the second?
Yeah.
David
Hunter.
So David isn't his father's name. So that would be probably like an uncle or something.
Oh,
Yeah, probably. Unless he just
Unless-
wanted to choose the second himself.
Well, yeah. I mean, how many people are like steadfastly following this junior versus the second rule?
Right.
yeah.
Probably not. Oh, well, I can't go by junior because the rules say.
Well, and of course, in Jewish law or tradition or whatever it is, you can't name your child after a parent unless the parent is dead.
Oh,
Huh.
really?
Yeah,
Causes too
I
much
never knew
confusion.
that.
yeah.
That's weird. I never knew. You would think I would have known that. I never heard that.
Well, I imagine it's not always adhered to, but that is the tradition.
It is something else, no question about it.
I've never understood naming a kid after yourself. I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
I would ever do it. I mean, I didn't do it.
Well,
so-
I
I
didn't
wouldn't
do it,
I
yeah.
wouldn't do it because I wouldn't want my kid to be just like me.
Yeah, it is
Well-
kind of like, you're my replacement.
Yeah.
Go forth and be good at life kind of thing. It's a lot of pressure.
I suppose there is a lot
Colin's
of pressure.
middle name is Andrew, so that's as close as we got.
Yeah.
Well, isn't Ethan's middle name Andrew too?
No.
Oh,
his
I thought it
middle
was.
name- nope, James after Melissa's grandfather.
Oh, okay. Ethan James.
Yep.
And Colin Andrew.
Yep.
And of course, Andy was named after Andy Fisher, my best friend when I was a little boy, who died young, unfortunately.
Hmm.
I mean, he wasn't. How old was he?
Well, he's in his 60s.
Was he only in his 60s?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I guess. There you go.
absolutely.
I suppose so.
Yeah, but Andy, matter of fact, so you're named after three Andy Fishers. Andy Fisher the first, Andy Fisher Jr., who was Andy Fisher, my friend's father, and then Andy was Andy Fisher the third.
Oh, well then.
So there you go. There were three
He was
right in a row.
junior, not the second, because it was his father, you see.
And see, you would be Andy the fourth.
If Andy Fisher was part of your family.
Exactly.
But because the last name's different, I broke the whole 1, 2, 3 cycle.
Yep. The chain has been broken.
Yep.
Did you name your children after anybody specifically, Mike?
Well, yeah. Jake, my first child, was sort of named after my one of my grandfathers.
Oh, okay.
Sort
My
of.
father's father, whose name was Jacob, but everyone called him Jack. No one calls my son Jack. But yeah, also it's just like it's a great name anyway. It's sharp. It's immediate. But the thing is, if you name your first kid Jacob, you really can't name your second kid, like something like Lance.
No.
Right.
So second kid was Max, and he was sort of named after a relative, and then after that, I didn't have any relatives. My dad was an only child. We didn't really have cousins or anything like that. So the thing is, okay, I've got a Jake, I've got a Max, so the third kid is Sam. And then it was funny because in the following years, I'd see like celebrities on shows and maybe, like a night show. And they'd say, well, how are your kids doing? And they'd say, oh, fine. And then they'd say, I've got 3 boys and their names are Jake, Max, and Sam.
Really?
Yeah, because honestly, a lot of people name their kids that just use those 3 names or 2 of the
Huh.
3 or whatever. Yeah, because again, the first name kind of starts it all.
And what's the sequence of it all? Why those 3 in a row?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the sequence, but you see those names together a lot.
Yeah, I suppose that is true. If you're a Bible reader.
Well, right.
Well, there is a video game called Sam and Max. Very famous.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I guess those 2 names just go together for whatever reason.
There's got to be a delicatessen somewhere in New York with that name.
Sam and Max Deli.
Something like that.
Ours were.
I think it was
10th Avenue
Nora. I
Deli?
think it was Nora Ephron. I may have the celebrity wrong, who had 3 kids named Jake, Sam, and Max.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Efron. Let's see. What are her kids' names? She has a Jake and a Max.
Okay.
But I don't see a Sam.
All right.
So you got 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
No.
Would he buy the farm?
Who?
The third kid.
Maybe there wasn't.
He may or may not have ever existed. I'm
not
doing
sure.
some research here. I wonder.
But it is true. The first name kind of sets the tone.
You got to complete the set.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, and I don't know why my parents named all their boys starting with a T. I have no idea.
That was just a thing. Melissa and I are both. We came from that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Me and Alex were both A's. Melissa and Mike both M's.
Yeah, that's true.
I
it was
think
just like a thing that people did for a long time.
I think my parents wanted to name my brother and I. They wanted us to have names that in no way suggested we were Jewish.
So Muttel?
Michael and Tony, so
Tony is a very not Jewish name.
Yeah, it could be more non-Jewish.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, the problem was people take one look at us and they say, nope, you're not Tony.
You are not Tony. Torah, perhaps.
Yeah, that's probably not a biblical thing.
What do you mean? You'd fit right in.
Comes from Anthony.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where's Anthony from? Antonius. Very not biblical.
No.
That'd be Roman, and I don't think they liked the Bible very much.
Yeah.
Well, for a while.
Yeah. But,
and then they'd like the Bible a lot.
But Roman is, that's it.
Huh. Well, it's Latin. It's close enough. Catholic.
And Michael, of course, sounds Irish.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I think the Archangel Michael. Being pious as I am.
And what are you going to do? I'm just looking at some stuff here. Max Fried. You know who Max Fried is, Andy?
No. Does he have a brother named Sam?
He might. Mike, do you know who Max Fried is?
He's
baseball player, apparently.
Probably the second greatest Jewish pitcher of all time.
Of all time. The first being Sandy.
The first being Koufax, yeah.
Absolutely. Max Fried agrees to an 8-year, $218 million contract.
Yeah, that's nothing anymore.
How is there so much money in baseball? No one I know watches baseball.
Yeah, in your generation, baseball is not huge. It is football and soccer, right?
Oh, would you look at that? Max Fried has a younger brother named Jake.
Oh, he does, really?
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Look at that, Gelfand. You're setting a trend here, man.
Yeah, apparently. Something about those three names. They just...
they go together.
They sure do.
Sam and Max and Jake.
I wonder what... definitely non-Jewish Otani.
I wouldn't assume there's a whole lot of Jews in Japan.
But he has something like $1 billion contract.
Yeah, let's see.
Yep, he does.
But he doesn't get paid. It's like he gets
$700 million for 10 years.
But he gets paid like over the course of 30 years or something.
Yes. So he's never going to run out of money.
Because he's not only the greatest player in baseball, he's the two greatest players.
Mm-hmm.
Pitcher and hitter, and probably three.
Yeah.
Pitch and hit and play defense.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Japanese baseball league sees every day that he came over here.
Oh, there's there are not that many people covering baseball for newspapers here, but after a Dodgers game, when Otani comes out to talk to people, there's probably 20 correspondents from Japan.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Been big in Japan since like the 80s.
Yeah, huge.
Very big in Japan.
I don't know. Baseball, golf. I mean, a lot of this stuff. Mike was good at golf until his son hit him in the head with a putter. But other than that,
And you got the yips.
That was that putt, wasn't it?
No, it was like a sort of a homemade miniature golf course.
Oh, I thought it was a regular one. So it was homemade.
Like a school event, and I forgot that 5-year-old kids tended to have a hell of a backswing when they were putting from 8 feet away.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was the backswing.
Yep, you got to stay very far away.
Yeah.
Was it the back of the head or something?
Right in the eye.
Hit you in the... Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Hit you in the eye.
I did recover from that. And now the eye is worthless, but I don't think they're connected.
No.
Though.
You're not blaming it on him?
No, because
this is your fault.
I don't think it was his fault that I had glaucoma.
Probably not. Probably not.
You don't have that 50-year lag period or whatever it was, or 30-year, I guess.
It was significant, yeah.
All right, boys. Any closing words on the show today?
I'm cold.
That's a good close.
Those are my closing
and I am
words.
colder.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, tomorrow it's going to warm up.
A little bit, yeah.
Ethan is going to be very sad because he said he doesn't want the snow to melt.
Well, I don't think it's going to.
No, probably it won't melt.
It's probably here to stay.
For the season, I think so.
All we need is one more good snowfall, and that's it.
We're going to have a white Christmas.
You're locked in.
Unlike last year where it was just like green and 50 the entire winter.
It was.
That was nice, wasn't it?
That was interesting.
All right, boys. Well, have a good day. We'll talk to you tomorrow and next week.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Every time I hear the singing, reminds me how you talking.